guys, welcome back to the 4th episode of Beyond the Shire. This introduction will be much shorter as all I'm doing is building another 3 dwarf warriors for my expedition to the East Army. And to remind those who are just tuning in, the idea of my series is to build all of my MESBG armies using mainly the old metal miniatures and imagining what if they created all of these models in the early 2000s. And straight onto the miniatures, here are the 6 original metal dwarf warriors. I will be working on 3 of them. Up first, we're going to grab the bow archer. I do love this pose a lot. We're going to start off by chopping off the bow, as I have a plan to make him holding a shield. And I do trim off all of the hair. I was tempted to actually leave him balding, but I do want him to fit into the theme, so I have to sculpt the helmet. Now I mounted him onto the base and I put a plastic dwarf shield, as I'm going to resculpt the buckler and fix some of the parts of it. Moving on to the second warrior, this is the two-handed dwarf warrior. I want him to be a warhorn blower, so I'm going to start off by carefully cutting off the hand and arm, as I'm going to repose a lot of this model. I do think this miniature has the most conversion potential, and I really do love him. And again, with this process, with the metal clippers, take your time, hold the miniature, and try to get a firm grip. Don't worry if you cut too much, we can always fix it. And I do flip the model around and I continue to clip and trim more of the metal. I would say for these pewter miniatures for Lord of the Rings, it's actually better to clip off more than you would think, as when it gets to sculpting and other parts, if you have exposed metal, it's going to be obvious, or any sharp edges. So again, take your time, trim more than you think you need to, as we can always repair it. Now that the left arm is completely done, for the right arm, I'm going to have to cut off the axe and make it into a one-handed axe. So pretty easy to just clip it right off. And you can notice I did cut off the tab of the dwarf warrior, as I'm going to create the pins I need to mount him onto the base. Now moving to the axe, we're going to have to make it clean, as I want to sculpt a whole new fresh hand on it. So grabbing your clippers, you're going to clip all 4 angles of the hand. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth just yet, as after we finish clipping, I'm going to use my little hobby file and I'll file everything down where the hand used to be and fix the back of the handle. And guys, you can see the little axe is by itself, so really cool. A lot of the weapons, you can do this for these Lord of the Ring miniatures. And to repose him, I want him to be in a more standing pose blowing the horn. So I'm going to chop off the left leg as he's lunging a bit too forward and slightly fix the right leg. And this is what the dwarf looks like. I had to finally pin the 2 feet, as this pose is a lot more involved than the other poses, but you can see the model has a lot of pewter chop, a lot of things look a little bit rough. That's when the sculpting will come in. On to the next dwarf. I didn't record it, but I chopped off his head and his arm to get a new pose. So I'm going to show you all the 3 dwarf warriors in their pre-green stuff phase. They look a little bit ugly, but you can get a slight idea of the poses I'm aiming for and how much I had to cut and prep them. The preparation phase is the biggest. You gotta really work hard to make sure everything's the way you want it to, and if not, well, you're gonna have a rough time when it comes to the sculpting portion. So onto the sculpting, I'll be jumping between all of the 3 different dwarves, so it might be a bit sporadic, but for this helmet, I'm simply grabbing the silicone tip tool and doing my rolling motion to get the dome shape I want. The dwarf helmets have a little bit of this weird fishbowl helmet type of design, so just try to match it, and you can see it's more conical on the top. Now I'm going to work on the pants real fast of the hornblower. This is really simple, as you don't see too much of it, and if you need help, just look at your other dwarf models for reference, as all the pants are the same. Then moving to the other dwarf, again, this is all a little bit of just clips of the process, as I explained a lot more in previous videos, but sculpted the beard, got the arm pose ready. Onto the horn blower, I did a lot more. So you can see I have the horn set up. I don't have the hands done. When I do my conversions, I sculpt the hands kind of last, as I want the whole pose to be dynamic first. Then I can get a more unique angle with the hand gripping the weapons or the horns. And you can see for this guy, I'm really happy with how the chainmail turned out, the hair, the axe slung over his shoulder. The whole pose is very dynamic and I really like it. Now this pose has become one of my favorites. He just looks very commanding. He looks like he's in charge of something and ready for battle, maybe surveying the field before the lines meet. And I wish he could be a captain model, but can't use him for Expedition to the East. And the hornblower is the most extensive conversion. The legs had to be sculpted, or the pants, the skirt, both hands, having to get the whole horn in the pose I wanted. I think he looks very dynamic, and even turning the two-handed axe into a one-handed axe. So really proud of this conversion. I know there is an official hornblower model, but this is a fun challenge and it makes him unique and distinct. And now onto the painted models. So again, this portion will just be me kind of rambling and talking a little bit about the painting. And at the end of this video, you will see all the dwarves I've painted for the Expedition to the East, including Murin and Drar. Now I am super happy to have these three with the collection, as I love these poses and I think I really am getting the hang of it. To paint each of these miniatures only takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours now. So let's kind of focus on each model. So with the hornblower, I think the whole conversion turned out great, like I mentioned before. And with the painting, he just seems so striking. Now that is a bit arrogant to say, as this is my model, but really pleased with how the colors all play together. I think the green with this brown and a blue combination is actually very pleasant to the eye. And with the non-metallic, I'm fairly happy with how the gold still stands enough from the beard. The non-metallic, again, I'm going for a more stylized look. I really don't have time to invest so much time per model, as I have so many more game systems to paint and other armies, but I'm very satisfied with this Tabletop Plus paint job that I can achieve in a very short turnaround. And just looking at the gold, even at the bottom of the chest armor, I'm really happy with it. I think doing this helps break up the complete gray tone of the chainmail. Let me know what you guys think. I'm really happy with it. And here's a comparison I kind of showed too. These guys are from the same base model, the two-handed dwarf, and it's quite incredible what you can do with one model. You can make so many different poses, and I kind of want to encourage more people to do so. Up next is a dwarf that honestly, if I played any other dwarf army list, he'd be a captain. I really love this pose. I think when I first saw the archer, and sorry, the reason I tilted this model back is I want you guys to know I do paint their eyes, and you can see it, but the visor kind of casts that shadow. But back to the point, this pose with the bow hand, I always looked at him and I thought there's so much potential, and I love the fact that he's just holding his belt, putting the shield into the ground now. Such a simple conversion. Really all I did was sculpt the helmet and add the hand to hold a shield and fix, a bit or two. It's incredible how much one slight modification can turn this archer pose into such a dynamic character. So really happy with the paint job, of course, with the stylized non-metallic, of course, on the shield, casting that light. Very unrealistic, but just very therapeutic to paint. And I did notice that these dwarves actually have metal in their beards. So after I painted this guy, I did go back to the original models, and I did add some gold and silver to their beards. I always wondered what those weird lumps were. And moving on to the last dwarf warrior. So this dwarf is a pose I like a lot. He is actually the shortest dwarf, I think, out of all of these 6 original Khazâd Doom warriors they created. But this pose is one of the best to make the best out of it. So for example, he has this relaxed axe over the shoulder pose. My first one I made had a more looking off into the distance pose, holding the weapon. The third pose I want to make, he would have the axe pointed down, holding it in his grip. So I just love the way this model turns out. As long as the head can be positioned at a different angle, you're constantly creating a unique pose, and I just love it so much. And again, you can see the paint job's quite similar with the fake metallic light casting off the shield, and the axe came out really well. Again, these paint jobs take about 1.5 hours to 2. That kind of includes me getting distracted, watching videos on YouTube while painting, or I'm painting and then I get bored and wander off. So, and guys, here is the army as it stands. I have about, I think, 11 dwarf warriors now from Murin and Drar, and I do want to note for the rangers, I did go back and repainted their capes. You can see a comparison. I think I like the brighter look, and it just looks more cape-like now. But again, these guys are turning out amazing. I'm surprised I've gotten this much done. I hope you guys are enjoying this series. It does seem very focused on dwarves, but I do promise you there will be a lot more MESBG content on the horizon.